The human experience, with our flaws, our passions, our triggers, our inspirations, and our imprints. If we could see behind everyone's story, then perhaps what we would have is deep compassion. In this podcast, I get the chance to explore these stories from some truly fascinating people in some honest and heartwarming conversations. And best of all, I get to share these discussions with you. I'm Lael Stone, and this is Humans Being. Welcome to Humans Being. I'm Lael Stone, and my humanness for this week is all about the beauty of old friendships. I just recently caught up with two friends who I've known since I was 12 years of age, and we have shared everything together, from getting through those teenage years, all the dodgy things you get up to travel, to marriages and babies and deaths and everything in between. And, we've got this beautiful, 38-year friendship. And when we catch up, it's so interesting because we live really different lives, yet you kind of just slip into this beautiful vibe with each other that comes with history of knowing someone, knowing all the ins and outs and all the challenging things that have happened in their lives. And it really made me think about actually how grateful I am to have a friendship like that with my two beautiful friends who I've known for such a long time, because it's a rare thing and not everybody has that. And what it did is it really allowed me to just tap into that even though life changes and we grow and we expand, that sometimes our past and our histories are so worth leaning into and cherishing and having a lot of gratitude for, because there's something really beautiful and unique and special about them. So if you have an old, long-time friend, maybe you haven't spoken to them for a while, maybe this is an invitation for you to send them a message or say hello, or just connect in with them and just lean into how beautiful it is to have something like that in your world. So that's my humanness for this week. Now, talking about heart connections, this leads me to my next guest today. I am so thrilled to have with me the wonderful Josh van Cuylenburg. I'm going to just read this little bit here first, Josh. So Josh, if you don't know him, is the co-host of the Imperfect podcast. I'm sure you don't know who they are. Then where have you been living? He hosts the podcast with his brother Hugh and Ryan Shelton, and they are one of Australia's biggest mental health podcasts. He's also a freelance filmmaker and visual storyteller, as well as a musician. He released his debut single, We Were Here, in 2023. And he's also the dad of two little humans and an avid gardener, I hear, these days. So welcome, Josh. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here. I cannot believe how relevant your humanness is for me today.
Really? Well, I was literally just about to say to you, can you relate to that? What's that like in your world?
Well, I have my bestest, oldest friend is a guy called James, and he lives in New York, and I don't get to see him much. The last time I'd really caught up with him was his wedding in Italy last year, where I was lucky enough to I was lucky enough to be best man and do the speech, and I tried so hard. I spent months on it and really wanted to do a good job. And it was such a wonderful, the whole night was it went so well. It was just a beautiful ceremony. And I haven't seen him really in a long time. And after this, I'm going to see him.
Oh, no way.
He's working at the Australian Open with a new job, and he's going to pick me up, and we're going to drive to my house, and he's going to have dinner with our kids and get to know them properly. And I haven't really been able to catch up with him in over a year, and I only get to see him once a year. So it's phenomenal timing that you shared that.
I love that. I must have known. I'm like, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Just something so beautiful about the shared history. There is a comfortableness, or just, I just find it so beautiful because they know who you are. They've seen all the different shades of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's what I'm really looking forward to is being in the car and us basically not talking about anything of importance. Yeah. But it's like we click back into in-jokes or a style of really childish behaviour from the moment I see him. Yeah. To the frustration of my wife, because she'll ask, how's his partner Jackie, how's his job? And I feel like I'll spend a whole day with him and then have no anecdotal evidence that I've seen him.
Like, oh, no.
She's like, did you actually see James? Yeah, we don't talk about anything.
I love that.
Yeah. It's usually jokes about my ineptitude, really.
Yeah.
But it's a healthy friendship, I promise.
So beautiful banter. There's something so rich about that. And I really do know that not everybody has something like that. And I think that's so beautiful to just hold that really dear.
Yeah, it's so special.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Beautiful. So, Josh, last year I was running a workshop where I have lots of different parents come, and there was a dad on that call, and he was really a bit unsure about sharing in front of everyone. There's a group of people, and then he got on to share, and what he said to me, he was really nervous about talking, but when he started talking, he said there were two people that had really changed his life as a dad. And he said the first was the interview that I did with you guys on the Imperfects, the very first episode I did, which was really about parenting and seeing behind the behaviour and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And he said listening to that really made him think about who he wanted to be as a dad. And then he said the second person who was the biggest influence in his life was you. Me. Because listening to you talk about your journey as a dad, your vulnerability, what it's done is it's allowed him to open up more with his kids and speak about his vulnerability and his realness. And it was so touching when he was on sharing this. I was like, I have to tell you that because it was so beautiful. And I can imagine, because of the Imperfects and this incredible audience and platform that you have, you would reach so many people that you don't even realise. No. How is that for you, hearing something like that? But how is that for you, realising that in you just being you and sharing, it has this incredible ripple effect?
I think I'm really unaware of it, and that's probably a good thing. I think I'd get extremely self-conscious if I thought it was anything other. Yeah. But when you hear something like that, it's pretty wild. Because to me, what I share, I should just speak for myself, but what I share on the Imperfects and in other forums, it doesn't necessarily I feel like I don't have a choice but sharing it, because it feels, I think once you start being vulnerable, and it sounds like the man you're talking about there has started being vulnerable more with his kids. For me, once you start doing it, and maybe it's just me, it feels like the opposite is even harder. Yeah. Because you suddenly realize that you can stop pretending in certain areas. Yeah. And you're sort of dealing with the real thing and the real you and the real issue or the real moment, as opposed to this facade that is so much harder to keep up. Yeah, it is. And I think for a lot of my life, maybe I'm just by default more vulnerable, like a little bit more vulnerable than your normal person. And so it was easier for me to get to that mode. But certainly for a lot of my life, I would try and cover up and pretend, and I've got it all covered and I've got it all in control. But then the moment I started to let go of that, life just got so much easier.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And I think it takes a lot of effort to mask. It takes a lot of effort to try and look like you got it together and to hold in those ways. And when we do just kind of let that go, I mean, for me, it gives permission to everybody else to do that as well, which is huge, because that's what we want, those ripple effects to go, let's all just be real here instead of this pretending that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, I get the idea that I guess if you see an example of something, it's very hard to, I'm sure there's a really good quote and I can't think of what it is, but a smarter person came up with a smarter way of saying this, but it's really hard to think of a new way of being. But when you see someone else doing it, you can be like, oh, I like a bit of that.
Yeah, totally.
I'll give that a go. Yeah. So to think that there's someone out there, even just like if that's the only person that it's affected, then it's just incredible.
It is.
Do
you sometimes sit back and think, wow, we've got this really amazing podcast. We're doing these shows all around the country. Like, are you sometimes just like, gosh, how do we get here? Or, do you pinch yourself?
A little bit, but it's also, I think it's just the nature of life that you acclimatize really quickly. And that is both a good thing and a bad thing. I think you can lose perspective and you can potentially take it for granted of how special it is, because if you'd told me 5 years ago that I'd be speaking to you on a podcast. I mean, I still think it's pretty wild that I'm invited to be on anyone's podcast, but 5 years ago I'd have been like, that is mental. But then you kind of get used to it and you acclimatize and you start to think, what's next? Yes. So it's kind of, I think there's sort of a bit of a sadness as well that you kind of I guess it's two sides of the same coin. It's like really good that you don't think you're great and how amazing you are. I certainly feel like I would be a terrible person if I was looking at myself and thinking, wow, how great it is what you guys have, what we've achieved on the podcast. But then also maybe you need a little bit of it so you don't lose touch with what's something that's pretty special.
I think it's an interesting thing, isn't it, when life kind of has other plans for you that you didn't really see. Like I know that like 5 years ago you weren't necessarily planning to be on the podcast and you were just kind of doing production and all that kind of stuff, to then find yourself in the place that you're in. And I love that about life, how we just actually have no idea. You know, we can have all these grand ideas, if it's going to look like this, it's going to be that. And then life just shows us this way. And when we can surrender to that and stay open to that, there's such magic that can happen. And I think what you bring to the podcast is so much realness and authenticity and vulnerability, which I think I know women just often love, because they're like, oh gosh, that's what the conversations I would love to be having, sometimes with other men, partners, that kind of thing. But also I think you show men that actually it's okay to feel in these big, beautiful ways. And I think, that it's something that we really need at the moment. I really do think.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. Yeah. For me, I just don't really have a choice but to feel those things. And then it's like, all right, the feelings are here. What do I do with them? Yeah. And I think as a parent, sometimes when I've been at my worst and acted in ways I regret, I think it's when I'm in denial of what's going on. Yeah. And I kind of shove them down, or I think, no, I got this, or I'm just not honest. And then I do something I regret, like, I've spoken about this on the podcast a few years ago. I think I've gotten a lot better at this, but I'd be prone to just like sudden bursts of anger that I really, really feel shame about, like storming out of a room and slamming a door. And then you're like, hang on, it's a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and you're the one losing it. Yeah. This is not what they need. It's just, you need to be better than this. But knowing that I was in a place where I just wasn't, if I just said to my wife 2 hours earlier, I'm struggling at the moment. Like I'm not on top of things. I'm exhausted. Just giving her a heads up that that's how I'm feeling, I wouldn't have gotten to that stage.
You have just summed up so beautifully the parenting dilemma, which is when we've got our own feelings and we're not feeling them, or we're not being able to even just speak it, then it spews out the side in ways that we don't like. It tips over the edge. We end up getting angry at the kids. We are less patient when really actually what we need is a break, or something's tapping into our wounds, or we just, we need to set some boundaries. And that's the challenge of parenting, isn't it? That so often when we are not attuning to where we actually are, then that kind of gets spread out everywhere in places that we don't really want it to. So it's so tricky, so tricky. And yet, this whole thing around parenting too, we are often reparenting ourselves as we're parenting our kids, right? So the modelling, was that modelled to us? Maybe it wasn't. And then what we're having to do in raising these little humans is keep doing our own inner work so that we don't respond that way with our kids. And it's really tricky. It's really, really, to me, it's some of the biggest work that we can do, to be able to stay in tune with where am I in this story, in this situation, and is my response valid to what's happening when my 4-year-old won't get in the bath? Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I think you might have stumbled across an exact issue right now, getting kids in the bath. Yeah. No, I think I feel like the thing that's popping up in my head then when we were talking is like, I need to thank you for something, because you have given me because there's nothing worse than the shame for me as a parent of making a big mistake and thinking, what damage have I just done? Like how much, and seeing their face when you've really hurt them by your reaction. But thank you to you for telling me the importance of apologizing and saying sorry. And it feels like I don't know what that. I believe you that it's going to work, and it feels like I don't know if it's going to work yet, but I'm doing it every time. And it does feel pretty amazing to go to even like a 2 or a 3-year-old and admit that I got it wrong and that I made a mistake. And you, maybe I'm being too honest with them, but just like Dad made a mistake. you deserve better than me to make a mistake like that, and I'm really sorry.
It's so powerful because I think for the child, they automatically think everything is their fault. When there's rupture, they will automatically go, it's me.
Yeah.
And so when an adult can come forward and go, actually, I have to take responsibility for that, what it does is it takes the burden off them. And they can still have hurt feelings and it can still need a bit of repair.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when a child has an adult there who's taking responsibility, acknowledging, owning, then the child begins to develop a story that says it's not my fault that something is happening. And not only that, you're modeling that beautiful thing about repair, and you're showing them that you're not perfect, which is actually a really good thing, because when we have this expectation of that we should have it right all the time and be perfect, we're kind of saying to our kids, well, then that's what that looks like, which, so we have to show them the messiness that gives them permission to be messy as well. So there's so much gold within it. It doesn't feel good. Like ideally we don't want to have to come and keep repairing. And usually if we're having to do it all the time, then it kind of highlights that maybe there's something that we're not getting or that we need, because, we ideally want to be in a connected, beautiful, flowing state. But the times when we're not, I think what I have seen over many, many years of parenting is that apologizing, owning what is mine, it is so powerful for our kids, because not only does it teach them how to do it, but also what it does is it strengthens the relationship, because, it comes back to this beautiful human connection piece of repair. And, I filmed an episode with my daughters and we talked all about this, that, we had fights growing up, the kids with each other, which are with us. There's a lot of messiness. But what they really spoke to was, but we always repaired, we always talked about it, we always came back together, which built this really strong foundation that said we actually can navigate anything, because we're going to keep coming together and we're going to keep connecting and talking and sitting in the hard places. And for them as adults now, they're like, that's everything. It's everything, because it helps us see that we can navigate whatever's there. It was really beautiful for even though I know that from a theory point of view, to hear that was really beautiful. So
yeah, that must have been extremely special.
Reassure you. You're doing beautiful stuff. So how is fatherhood sitting for you now at the moment? Like how are you sitting in there?
It's great. I think I feel as good as I've felt as a dad since beginning.
Beautiful.
Since starting. I think I've got two beautiful boys, Charlie and August, and they're at different stages. Augie's 3 and Charlie's 5, and they're both just. I obviously slightly biased, but I think they're the best two little people in the world. But they're very different people, and they're so, as every parent. Most parents, I'm sure, would say it's like a real shock when you have one and you're like, oh, I just can't imagine anything else but this one. And then the next one comes along and you're like, well, you're the complete, almost opposite in all ways. And so it's been a real challenge for me to work out how to be the parent that two boys need that are very different boys, similar in some ways, but there's some core needs that they have that are very different. And I didn't quite understand, because a few people had said to me, like, you needed this, you needed this challenge. And I was like, I don't think I did need a challenge. I was pretty good. I had my life sorted, but and your kids will teach you stuff. And I didn't quite understand what that meant, but I think I'm finally starting to realize what that meant. And it's making me such a better person to be able to sit with exactly what you're just talking about. Like, I've always been shocked. Like, I'm so bad with conflict. I think most people probably are, but I grew up in an extremely kind, loving, happy household where harmony and happiness was a real priority, and there wasn't much conflict at all. So I've got no experience of it. Whereas my wife grew up in a much more, I would say, realistic and how would you say it? To me, just a much more normal household where there were fights and then people got over it. Like, they repaired in their own way and it wasn't taken personally. But because there was no fights in our house, it's always felt like if there's a fight, the whole thing might fall apart.
Yeah, like the whole world is imploding. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I relate. I grew up in a family really safe, beautiful, but there was never really conflict. And so if anyone got angry, I was like, this is it. It's over. Yeah. Like, and I even remember being in my relationship early with Mike, and one time he was angry with me and I was like, oh my God, that's it. We've got to separate. And he's like, no, we're just having a fight. But in my mind, I had no idea how to be in the hard stuff.
Yeah.
So I relate to that.
And sit it out and know and have a knowledge that it's going to be okay.
Yes.
And, yeah. And so I now have boys that have a 3 and a 5-year-old that have conflicts quite a lot. Like at the moment, they can play for about 30 seconds before it really explodes.
Yeah, he took my train.
And then there's something there. And I'm learning so much from them on how to sit with that and learn that it's all going to be okay and we all love each other and we can get through this. Yeah. And to sit with uncomfortable emotions and anger between them and all that kind of stuff. And I hadn't really understood that until I think the last few months, that this is what people were saying when you need this and it's going to be really good for you.
Yeah. And it's I think when you have grown up in an environment like that where it's been, by all accounts, very safe.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when you dig a bit deeper, maybe people just didn't talk about the hard things, or we just kind of turned away from. They're often subtle things that we do, and also very safe and loving. And it's not like we want the opposite, where there's just conflict all the time and, it feels explosive and it's not great.
Yeah.
But it is a real skill to learn how to sit in the uncomfortable. And I think if we have any parts of us that are real people pleasers, which has been a huge part of my journey as well, to learn to sit in discomfort has been super, super challenging. And there is nothing like kids to bring that up, because they're just so real and raw in the moment and they're just expressing exactly how they feel. And you want to kind of teach them how to have healthy conflict resolution. We can talk about what's going on and what are your needs and what are their needs and how do we all get our needs met and all that kind of stuff. But it's really triggering as a parent when you see your kids fighting, particularly siblings. You want to jump in and make it stop quickly. And so often what we do, we get louder, or we yell, or we try and power over them to make it stop, or we totally just try and band-aid everything so it's okay. And then 5 minutes later, the same bust up is happening again.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to learn the skills to sit in the fire, to help it navigate it in a way that's modeling to them, this is what healthy conflict resolution looks like.
One thing I really yes, I agree. It's really hard. One thing I really struggle with is that just the actual practicalities of a situation where you're the only one there. Like, say your partner is just not there, so you're just solo parenting at the time. And I don't know how full-time solo parents navigate this, but one child, you go in there with all the best intention, and you're like, I'm calm. I've taken my deep breath. I know that I'm not going to react. I'm just going to be there. And you get in there and you're like, well, I know you need something that's the opposite of what you need, and I can't give you both what you need right now. So what am I supposed to do? You're kind of like, I guess I just give you, maybe I'll give you what you need this time, and next time I'll give the other one what he needs, or do I give you half of what you need each? It's like but I guess then they're learning about compromise and living with each other.
It's in all of that as well, because siblings are all about, exactly that, learning how to compromise, learning how to wait, all those kind of beautiful things that can come from having siblings. But, what you're saying, it's really tricky. Like, sometimes you're like, I can't split myself in two. And, I often just used to look at it of who's got the loudest need at the time, and who's also got, sometimes with your kids and their temperament, I would often look at who's got more capacity to wait and who's got a little bit more capacity to navigate something tricky. Like, even in my 3 kids, they've all got really different temperaments, and one was probably a little bit more sensitive than the other, and you have to parent them differently, right? And so it was sometimes navigating, okay, how can I meet these needs here, depending on what I know about that child in front of me. It's not easy though. It's tricky. Like, you can understand by the end of the day when you're like,
exactly. And that's when you're at your best.
Yes. And when you're at your worst, it's just like, it's really hard, isn't it?
When I end up yelling and regretting it.
You, with your boys, like, is one of them really like you? Can you see the mirror in one of your boys, in you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I can see it in both of them. I think most people would say, I'm hesitant to say which one on the podcast because I'm just trying to protect them, and I always get very nervous about what they'll hear when they're older. But I think that a lot of people would say that I'm like one of them, and I certainly am. But I actually see a lot more of myself in the other one, and I find that to be much more confronting.
Yeah.
It's really to see some of the emotional reactions to things that I know I have inside me. That is so hard when you see your child react like that, because it's like I've been lucky enough to be doing some schema therapy this year, last year, which was really amazing. But like when your child does something that reminds you of you, and it's something that you are not quite proud of or don't know how to place as a part of you, that's like live schema therapy in front of you with another human being. It's like there's so many layers of complexity there, and it's really hard. That phrase of like, I can't remember who said this, but of like having kids is like reliving your childhood through the window. It's like looking at it through a window is so true.
And it is. And that's why I often think that children are our teachers. Like we think we're there to guide and teach them, but they come in and they're like, all right, you need to sort out that bit and you need to sort out that bit in that bit, because I don't want to carry that forward. So I'm going to just push and poke these pieces. So hopefully you lean in to do what's there for you. That's how I see it. I see it as this beautiful gift that our kids give us, which is to be that beautiful mirror to the shadows that we have or to the parts that need healing, because the more that we can do that, the less we unconsciously place on their shoulders. And, that for me is they're just protecting their own best interest, which is I need to be who I need to be. I need to be free in the world. So I don't really need to carry your baggage. So can you sort that out, please? That's often what I think it's all about.
Yeah. I think something else I've felt that I've been trying to work on, and it's sort of both that and what we said before, I think, is that dealing with your own, can you swear on this?
Yeah.
Dealing with your own shit is so important.
Yes.
And sorting that out and doing whatever you can to work on that, because it's going to come out in ways you don't want. Mm-hmm. But also I think part of being an adult is sitting, and this is going back to what you're saying before, but I feel like is learning to sit with uncomfortable things for longer than you might like and not letting it affect you, I think, or at least for me. I feel like a younger version of me would be like, this situation doesn't feel good. I need to make it feel good quickly and chase anything, whether it's like drinking, booze, or other behavior, or moving on to something else, distraction. But sometimes I think as a parent, there's just situations where you're like, this is not going to get fixed quickly, but I need to be the one to be able to sit with the uncomfortable feelings and not put that on the kids. Does that make sense?
It 100% makes sense. And I think that's real growth, isn't it? When we can identify this is uncomfortable and every part of me wants to numb it or distract myself or even abandon myself to make it okay. That whole I'll just give in and make it okay and please whatever's here, which is another really classic pattern that we can do, when we want to keep moving towards that, because sitting in the uncomfortableness is hard. But I think the first beautiful step is being able to go, this is uncomfortable. And I know that I want to go and just lose myself on binge watching something, or I know that I just want to numb it by doing something else, but I'm not going to because I'm going to sit with this. And that's where I think we build that beautiful muscle of resilience, and we build that beautiful tolerance to it's uncomfortable and I'm still okay.
Yeah. And I think also for me, it's where I'm lucky enough to have an incredible wife and a great relationship. And so having someone just to say, this is a bit shit at the moment, and not necessarily needing the other person to fix it or them coming in to fix it, which is a whole other thing. But having that shared language it just shares the burden a bit in a way that it's no longer, I don't know, it's like we all agree that this is a bit shit.
And we're in it together. Yeah. But it's a difference, isn't it? When you can stand at the bottom of a mountain with someone and go, it's a big mountain, but we can do it together. It gives us something that goes, okay, I can do it because I'm not alone within it. So that is the beauty of having, a partner, a co-parent to go, let's navigate this hard stuff. And I know, you have little humans, like this is one of the most intense times of your life. Having kids under the age of 6 is really full on, it's physically demanding, it's exhausting. It gets easier. I often go, you get this real sweet spot between like 6 and 11 where they're kind of doing their thing and And then once they start to move into puberty, then it gets hard again. And then they get to 17 and then it gets easier again. So you're in that hot spot now, and then it changes, and and that's, parenting. It's big.
I'm also aware though that like I love it so much. And I am so like you kindly mentioned that song I released, and the big emotional idea behind that song is that this will all be over one day, and I don't want to miss it or cruise through any of it. I just kind of don't want to waste any of it. And so, for example, my I think I should share this. He'll just have to cop being embarrassed by it one day. But my oldest is about to start school, and we have been both our boys. I know this is probably what a lot of parenting manuals say you shouldn't do, but we've ended up in a situation where we basically fall asleep with them in bed, like one of us in one bed and one another. Yeah, and it's
that's pretty lovely.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Although practically some nights you're like, I can't do it tonight. I've got too much on. I've got to get up.
Work to do. Yeah.
I've got to get up and do more work.
Next day awake. Yeah.
And then getting up after falling asleep with them to do work is impossible. So we've been putting in a few boundaries with the older one to be like, all right, I'll stay with you for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I've got to go up and do things. But he's starting school, his first day of school on Friday. And this is another thing that you introduced me to. And when you told a story on our podcast, and I'm going to probably get the story wrong, but the way I remember it, that was that one of your kids, when she was young but older than a toddler, sort of started regressing in her behavior and acting very toddlerish. And you just sort of said, what's going on? And it was a beautiful story that she just like needed a hug and needed mum. And so, but I've felt in the last few days before school's starting for him, he really, really wants me to lie in bed with him and not leave. Yeah. And I just don't want to. Like, I want to stay there till the end right now, because I think he really needs me in that way. And I wouldn't have thought about it unless you told me that story, that this is probably what's going on a little bit. Yeah. But I just part of the wasting time is like, parenting's hard at this age, but I also there's going to be a time when he will say, no, I don't want you to sleep in my bed tonight. And I'll be like, oh, great. I'm going to go and clean the dishes and do the things like that are awesome. And then he won't ask me the next night, and then he won't ask me the next night, and then he'll never ask me again. Yeah. And I feel this pang of guilt that, like, don't waste it now while he's asking.
There's that beautiful thing, have you seen, I saw it on Instagram, of you don't ever realise the last time you pick up your child.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that going, because I look at my son who's 25, like, and I'm like, I don't remember the last time I picked you up.
Yeah.
I don't know how old you were. Like, you don't know those lasts, right, that happen. And I really hear what you're saying there about there's that split often in parenting, isn't there, where we're like, I've got to do the things and the jobs. Yeah. And yet that connection piece and what our kids call us into being is so sacred. And it is so beautiful, and it isn't going to last forever. It'll change. It'll still be there. It'll just morph and change into different things. Yeah. And I often say to parents, sometimes the absolute wisdom is the attunement to where your child is in this season and meeting them there. Yeah. And it's not going to be forever, but as he makes this beautiful transition. And I love that you share that story about Tali. And it was when she was starting high school. So she was big, like she was like 12, and she was just moving back into that because she was about to make a leap forward. Yeah. And I think that that's such beautiful insight, that you can feel that you're like, he's needing me a bit more now because he's about to go and make this big leap. And of course, all children, when they're about to step out, they need to feel the security of their base. Yeah. And whether that's falling asleep at night, whether that's playing more, all those kind of things, they're doing it because they're like, this is a stretch. It's big.
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling that story years ago, because it feels like it's armed me with what I need to tune into him.
Yeah.
I think this brings something up that we had psychologist Maria Roberta on our show, and she was talking about sleep, and she said that she learnt along the way, and it was a real game changer for her, that sleep is about safety. Yeah. And that you need to feel safe to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And I've been noticing that as well when we're lying there with the boys. There's like a routine of things to go through. of like, have I got this? Have I got that? I got that. And then especially with the younger one, it's like once you get all the pieces into place that make him feel safe, and usually holding him really tight, like he's a very affectionate boy, so we're usually like that far away from each other, which is pretty uncomfortable. Like you're breathing right on each other, but you're like, it's kind of sweet as well.
He smells still good, you know, when they're little. They reach a point where they don't start to smell as good, but yes.
That'll be more of a challenge.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get in that thing, it's like, takes like 5 seconds and he's like out. Yeah. But you just got to get all the safety around him. And it's a really nice feeling to know as a parent that that's what you're doing. You're not just, it's not pointless. It's not like it's not indulging him. It's like, it's making him feel safe in the world.
You are embedding attachment to him. You're embedding in him in that moment that I can bring safety to you and I'll be here for as long as you need. And that is so powerful in every single part of his being, because he's got an inbuilt sense of safety in him. And you know, I guess the more I've worked with adults, so many people didn't have that safety as children, you know, and they go through life feeling fundamentally unsafe through life, often because those core attachments that we have when we're little aren't actually formed, and therefore we try to find them in other places, but we don't necessarily feel a sense of safety. And that's why what you're doing is so important and so beautiful in these young years, if we can do it, because it sets up this sense of belonging, safety. It's so vital. It's beautiful. And I really hear, you know, we've got the pull again between, but we've got to do jobs, and others are like, don't make it indulgent. And, you know, I slept with my kiddos for a long time. And I promise you, by the time my kids start to go through puberty, they're like, they want other people in their bed, not me, right? I'm like, I know my son is not going to be 17 and co-sleeping, right? And yet it's such a pull between sometimes what society, we hear all the noise of society, and then the dance between what is right in your family.
Yeah.
I really love that. I love that coming back to what feels right for us for now.
Yeah. And yes, us and them, really, like doing your best to tune into what they need, as opposed to what other people are saying, I think. I also I hadn't really put two and two together, but it just occurred to me that how much of, I think, possibly the greatest 7 minutes in TV history is Bluey's sleepy time. And how much of that episode is about safety and there's that amazing line about the mum sort of saying, I'm going to get this wrong, but I'll always be here. Yeah. Sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty special stuff. Bluey, sleepy time.
It is. It's such an honor being, it is. I think Bluey has a lot that it has set up in those deeper core, beautiful attachment, playful elements that create harmony in families. It's so beautiful. What a forum for that to come to life on.
Yeah. And just to give it one more plug, I also think, and to link it to that, what you mentioned earlier with that note from that dad, I think Bluey's done so much for dads. It's given a model in a dog it's so funny to be at a playground and see all these dads and you hear them all playing games that they've heard from Bluey. Like seeing done on that, and that's pretty special. Like what
it's profound, isn't it? Because there's something, we're so funny as humans. We don't like being told, but you can see it in a cartoon. You can go to a movie and see it. You can hear it in a song, and you're like, oh yeah, I could do that. Like we're pretty weird, aren't we? How we're just like, yeah.
I'm happy to take tips from a cartoon dog, but yeah, don't tell me. Yeah.
You know, you've shared a lot on the Imperfects about your own mental health journey, and you know, the inner critic I know is one that you've done lots of different episodes and stuff on. And you know, I heard you mention that, you know, it would feel weird to not have that inner critic there. I would love to hear a little bit more about that for you, you know, and I really do understand it too, because we can have those voices in our heads that are so familiar that it feels foreign to not have it. Yeah. What is, where does that sit for you now these days?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I think I've been aware of having an inner critic of that concept since I was like 19, so it's nearly 20 years now. When I first saw a professional, I saw this psychiatrist I saw a psychiatrist because he bulk billed and therefore I could afford it, and probably wasn't the best fit for me, but there were some things that he said. I think he was very smart, and I think most things he said were true, but just so blunt that it just didn't quite work. Yeah. But he introduced me to this idea of the things I'm saying to me inside my brain and this inner critic. And it's been an extremely active, negative voice for most of my life. I think it probably turned up in my teen years and was there. And I've done a lot of work on it. And anyone who has done a lot of work on this has probably come to a similar realization. I don't think this is anything unique, that for me, it's there to help me. And the job of it is I sort of got to that after a long time of really, truly realizing and believing and coming to that appreciation for myself that critic was there to help me and protect me in a weird way, but just wasn't very good at it sort of thing. And I think I'm starting to get to a point in my life where I'm getting really good. The first time I actively was able to shut it off in a really healthy way was actually just after the birth of our firstborn, Charlie. Was it that night at the hospital? I might be rewriting history in my brain here, but the way it feels was that it was just the euphoria for me of this first child was unlike anything I'd felt. And then an inner critic started to jump in, and I had this realization of like, your child deserves a dad who doesn't speak to himself like that. And that really shut it up in a good way, and felt a sort of offering, I think it was like offering reality and compassion to myself at the same time. Yeah. And so since then, I'm not saying it's gone away. It has reared its ugly head and gotten quite bad at times. But in general, I've been really working on it, seeing psychologists. I've been doing a lot of other things to sort of help with some mental health struggles that I've had over the last few years. And I think the accumulation of all this stuff has meant that I've gotten so much better at sort of not listening to it. And it feels really small now and almost gone. Yeah. But I kind of feel scared about how to exist in the world without it. Because if its job was to make me safe or to help me be safe and not take risks, then who's going to tell me what's a bad idea? When I say bad idea, just a risky idea. Yeah. Like putting myself out there in a certain position or doing things that I would never have done because the critic would have told me you shouldn't do that. I might fail now. I might take a big swing and make an idiot out of myself, or I might have a conversation, or there might be conflict in my life and I think I'm right, but I'm actually turn out to be wrong. Yeah. It opens me up to so much more, to me, what is really vulnerable. And I find that really scary to be thinking it's like that maybe for this second half of my life as I'm coming into it, I might have this more risk, more chance of getting it wrong and stuffing up and doing the wrong thing because there isn't that voice telling me don't take that risk. Yeah. Yeah.
God, I love the way that you explain that. I think so many people will be like, that makes so much sense. And the way I often look at that, or I hear it, is that inner critic, which often for me is connected to the younger parts of us that are often around, stay safe because we did this once and there was danger, so don't, I'll keep you safe in those ways. And I guess what I have learned to do in similar ways, and people I've worked with, is we want to be able to integrate that inner critic to help it grow up so that it actually is an adult that speaks, not the kind of wounded child. And I often look at it that way, particularly, and I hear you, what if I take this risk? What if I do something new? It might not work. And often those fears, which are so normal and valid, come from the young parts of us that are like, because we might not be accepted or we'll be ostracized or people will laugh. Yet I find that the more I can integrate the embodied adult in me, the more I begin to listen to her. She is the one who will, when my intuition is on, say, that's maybe not a good idea. Oh, yeah. And I get it in a clearer way, as opposed to don't do it. And for me, I kind of have found, and again, I know everybody's got to find their place of how it works with them, is that often the parts of us that stay small or don't risk, again, they're really protective, but they're usually the parts of us that haven't actually grown up into the adult self, because the adult self has done lots of hard things. You speak every week on a podcast, so vulnerable. I mean, mate, what you do, people would be like, there's no chance I would ever do that, ever. It's different for everybody, right? But, Yeah, but I think there is so much evidence there of your courage and your bravery, that you do these things, that you're a dad, that you've put yourself out there, all that beautiful stuff. And that's where I keep thinking we need to pull the evidence from, of all the things we have done.
Yeah.
And it's the split often that's really, really tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think the evidence piece is really interesting. If I think of like a example of one where the inner critic won for a long time would be public speaking.
Yeah.
And so at some point in my life, I developed an idea that Hugh is a brilliant public speaker, and he is. That's sort of objectively true. And my sister is a brilliant speaker and actress and performer. And you're okay. You can get up and sing a song. That's fine. But as soon as you have to speak, it's like game over. And I could not get words out. I remember I was in a band and there was evidence. And then because I believed that, I provided evidence to the world that was the case. Yeah. So when I was in a band with all my really good mates, we would play gigs and the music would be fine. But what I said between songs was so bad. Like it was just nothing. It was nothingness that didn't add anything to the show. And then they would kind of tease me a bit afterwards because it was take it away. And then another song. And it's like, they're like, you can come up with more than take it away. Like, is there any other phrases you could put in there? And so that supported the evidence of my critic. And so then I'd get worse and worse. And I spoke at my brother's wedding in 2019, which is a couple of months. Actually, we just started the podcast. We're probably a month into the podcast. I wasn't on the podcast at that point. And everyone else sort of just spoke. I wrote it down and I read it sort of almost covering my face with the paper because I knew I wanted to get it right. I didn't want to make a mistake and there's no way I could talk without a script. I think I even read from a piece of paper at my own wedding because I was so nervous about it. But then in preparing for deciding to do a live show, talking on a podcast I think is a bit different because especially when it's your own podcast, there's a feeling of like, well, at least, and I was editing the podcast at the time. I was like, I can say things and I'm the editor, so I can cut it out if it's not good. Yeah. But getting up to talk in front of thousands of people was terrifying. Yeah. And I just didn't know I could do it and I didn't think I could do it. And my critic said, you can't do it. But Hugh, Ryan and Bridget had this sort of faith and confidence that you'll be fine. It'll be hard and you'll get there. And for the first few shows we ever did, it was a weird feeling. It was like I wasn't even on stage. I was sort of hyperventilating. I was barely there. But then it started to go well and I started to get pieces of evidence that said, oh no, you can do that. And now we've got a show tomorrow night. No, in 2 nights' time. And it's been like this for the whole tour. I'm so excited to get out on stage and not know how it's going to go with a feeling of like, you could make a mistake, but that'll be kind of fun. Yeah. That'll be exciting and imperfect, on brand for the show. Absolutely. We're lucky that we created a show called Imperfects that kind of gave me an out the whole time of like, it's imperfect, but that you can make mistakes and it doesn't matter. Like it's not a big deal. And now I feel quite excited about speaking to people and I find it almost thrilling. Yeah. And it feels so weird to me that for the majority of my adult life, like 16 years of my adult life, that I was the complete opposite. Yeah. And to know that now I've got a critic that I think on that level will say like, have you done the preparation? Do you know what you're doing? Yeah. That kind of stuff. Yeah. But no, I think you don't need me for the speaking. Yeah, yeah. Once you go out there, I think you got this.
That's so beautiful. And isn't it that evidence once you see it and you go, well, if I can do that with speaking, I can do that with other hard things.
Yeah. Ironically for me, like I'm sure there's a challenge for many people, but it feels weird that it's still such a block for me. But like, I just can't seem to exercise and I'd love to move more and exercise. But there's this huge critic in there that to this day, like I did the absolute most cliche thing ever and I did a workout on New Year's Day this year. That's going to be me this year. Did another one 2 days later. Yeah. And then the critic jumped in and was like, nah, you're not this kind of person. Yeah. That's your brother and your sister. Yeah. Interesting. You always fail at this. you're and then I missed one, and it's like, well, there's proof.
Yeah, there you go.
You've done it. You failed already. And I rode to work the other day, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so, maybe I misspoke when I said that the critic's really small.
Yeah.
But I think it's more like maybe it's just healthy in some areas and really unhealthy in others.
And do you know what that makes me think about, particularly with the exercise? It actually makes me think about safety again.
Okay.
Because, and I tell you this because I've been like that most of my life too. I'm like, I don't want to exercise. It's always a chore. And yet the last year and a bit, I have found exercise in a way that I'm now a little bit obsessed, which is so weird because I'm always like, I just don't want to move.
Yeah.
And what it was is finding the right person and the right way to do it. And I have this amazing trainer, and it's just me and her, and it's in her garage, and sometimes her toddler wanders in, right? Yeah. And it is so safe, and we laugh and we chat, and it's changed the story because I want to go because I get to hang out with her. But also there's a safety thing involved, and going back to the sleep thing and going back to all the things I think that we need to do to move forward. For me, and the exercise thing is about, I had to find a safe way to do it, because I was never going to go to the gym and I wasn't going to commit to those things.
Yeah.
There was just something that made me go, this feels good. And then it's changed that pattern. And, whether that applies to you or not, I just keep coming back to us as humans. We need that safety often to move forward. Yeah. We can tell ourselves so many times, you'll be fine on stage or you'll be okay with this. But, those little steps that we take each time where we're brave, we get more evidence it's okay, then I think we begin to build that muscle that we can actually do it and it's okay.
Yeah.
And I often think that about kids too. We expect so much of children. You can ride your bike, you can learn how to write. We just are constantly pushing them to do things that are out of their comfort zone. And yet as adults, we get more and more static, with what we won't do. Yet when we look at children and the risks that they take, and it's okay if you don't get it right, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Gosh, we could learn so much from them, couldn't we? In just taking those little steps forward.
And we all know, or I think, well, I certainly have learned, and I think this is the right advice, that like the best thing to do as a parent is to reward, or as far as when they're trying something, is to reward the effort and to like focus on how amazing it was that you tried something new and forget about the results.
Yeah.
But then we have the complete opposite attitude to ourselves.
You might have to get up and put your runners on and go, well done, Josh. You put your runners on. Okay, I'm going to just still sit on the couch, but you put your runners on, so that's So you go out to the mailbox, and it's kind of a bit like that, isn't it?
Did you feel with your exercise that, like when you said that you look forward to it, have you ever had that before in your life? Never. And did you ever, because obviously you've heard thousands of people say that they live for it.
It's addictive. Yeah, I think about it all the time. Never. And so my husband and I started off training together, and then he kind of dropped off. But now I get up at 7 a.m. and I go train. He's like, where are you going? And I'm like, training. And he's like, like I am like, it's you get the dopamine hit and it becomes addictive, and I like feeling strong, but also I don't know, something shifted, and it's taken, I'm 50, like it's taken this long for me to get it. And I think whether it's exercise, whether it's doing something creative, we're all different within it. But for me, when I look at what it was, there was just the safety piece. There was I actually really do want this, but the block I've had around it is just an old story. I've got a bit of a similar old story. So I don't know, it just shifted into, you got to find the right environment to do it. And then there's enough evidence there, and then we actually move forward, Yeah, that's what's been, anyway.
Well, I think I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm open to the idea of it happening now, rather than maybe a year or two ago I would have been like, well, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And I kind of, hearing you speak, I'm like, well, that's something for me to look forward to.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just going to exercise at one point in the, I think
you have to open the window. I'm always about just open the window of possibility and to do it in your own way. And I think that with so many things in life, like if we just open the door, leave the door open that something could happen, then even if it's 5%, we've got the opportunity to make something new.
Yeah. Again, something you probably naturally do with your kids, but not yourself.
That's 100%. Aren't our kids the best teacher? I want to finish off with just one more little story. When I think about you is, I was so fortunate enough to do the Imperfects shows with you, the first round that you did years ago. Yeah. And the first show we did in Geelong was the very first show. So that was probably the one where you were terrified.
Yes.
But you carried it well because I didn't pick up on that. But I hadn't seen the show. And so came on, did my little bit, came off. And then it gets to the point in the show where you talk about how you hadn't played live music in a long time. And then, you know, the guitar comes on and you play the song that you, for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it was going to happen. And just the way that it was set up was beautiful. And I remember standing beside the stage with Hugh and I'm like, is he going to sing? And Hugh's like, yeah, watch this, right? He was standing with me and he's like, watch this. Because obviously you'd rehearsed it, but I hadn't seen it and all the audience was there. And you start playing and singing this song. And I am howling like a baby. I was like snot crying on the side of the stage.
It was after you on stage, I guess.
Because I was like, oh my God, not only it was so powerful, and my family was in the audience as well. My mum comes up and she's like, where's Josh? I need to go and hug him. Like, it was so beautiful. I mean, it was a beautiful show, but for me it was just, you know, you stood in this place of real courage and vulnerability, and you stood for what you stand for. Like, and you actually just were human in it. And I just remember being so moved by that. And I hear your stories that you have around the struggles, which we all have. But I just want to say to you, Josh, there is so much evidence of your amazingness and your courage and how you being you in your beautiful, raw, vulnerable state is actually such a gift for the world.
Oh, well, that's pretty hard. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. That is so kind. I'm doing the best to be myself. I'm trying my hardest, and I don't get it right all the time, but working on it. And it was a really special opportunity to be able to play music for people. I think Nick Cave talks about how having a group of people turn up to see you do something is like one of the greatest honors you can have as a person, and don't waste that opportunity. And I really felt that for those shows, to be like, just, if this is happening, you might be terrified, but let's not waste the opportunity.
What an honor to be of service in those moments.
What an honor to have to people there that you get up there and do this. It's pretty special.
So as Ben says, not I have to, but I get to.
Yes. Yeah. I think I've just stole something off Ben.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Last two questions. I talk a lot about imprints, which is, you know, what is passed down from our parents. And if I was to say to you, what imprints would you love to give your boys? What 2 or 3 imprints would you hope that you give them that they carry forward in life?
Wow, that is
maybe a big question.
Yeah. I don't know if this is answering the question, but I think I'd just like them to feel in their core that no matter what, my answer will probably change in a few days, but in their core that no matter what is going on in life and how challenging it will all get, that I'm worthy, and that I am worth love, and I'm worthy of a good life, and I'm worthy of love at my core. And I also think that I'd love them to have, I don't know if this is an imprint or maybe it's a skill, I don't know if they're different, but maybe they're intertwined. But a ability to understand that life isn't, I want them to be able to handle it, like be able to handle it all, like the positive and negative, like the hard times in their life, with a sense that it's all going to be okay and I can get through this, rather than a feeling of doom and dread that this might be it. More a celebration that the full spectrum of emotions and experience is what living is about.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that they've got, no matter what's going on, they can keep their feet on the ground.
Yeah, and that, it's it's a bit complicated to get into to tell a 3 and a 5-year-old now. But one day that, yeah, life is about experiencing it all, all of the things.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't it, I often say the best way for our kids to take on those imprints is for us to live that. Just to keep living that, to keep showing them.
Yeah.
That's what's possible within it.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
You are. You're doing an amazing job. All right, what would you like people to know about what's going on in your world at the moment? Have you got anything, any offerings? What would you like people to know?
My garden's looking really good.
I don't think you're doing open tours for your garden, though, are you? No.
I just want everyone to know it's going really well. There's a few failures in there, but that's life.
That's good.
The podcast is that unfortunately I don't have it. I really want to release music, but there's nothing coming out at the moment. But the Imperfects podcast is coming. I don't know, when's this coming out? This
in the next month or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Imperfects would have been back for a little bit, and we've got a big year of like some incredible guests lined up and a lot of exciting things, and I am really proud of that. So that's probably the main thing. Come and listen to the Imperfects if you want.
Yeah, beautiful. If you don't know the Imperfects, you haven't listened to it, then you've got about 200 hours of amazing listening to catch up on. Incredible people, incredible guests.
Including about 5 incredible ones with Lael.
Thank you. Thank you. Josh, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing so generously. Thank you for your beautiful vulnerability. I really agree with what that dad said, what I said at the beginning. You give people permission to be real and to be vulnerable, and that is an incredible legacy to be in the world, because people can't be what they can't see. I say that all the time about parenting, but also just about being human. And I think you are one of the very best humans. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question or contemplation. And visit my website laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human. Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question, or contemplation. And visit my website, laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human. Thanks for sharing this time with me. You can find my book, Own Your Story, at bookshops or listen to the audiobook on Audible. I even read it myself. You can stay connected with Humans Being on Instagram, Facebook or YouTube. We love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, question or contemplation. And visit my website, laelstone.com.au, where you'll find heaps of great resources and courses for you to explore. This podcast is produced by Nigel Carboon, recorded by the crew at We Make Online Videos, and our original music is created by Josh Reed. Humans Being is produced on the lands of the Bunurong and Wadawurrung people. We pay respect to their unique and diverse cultures and to elders past, present and future. Until next time, stay connected and don't forget to be human.